Voice of Indonesia.
Welcome to special interview on Voice of Indonesia. I'm Daniel. It's an honor to welcome our special guest, Youmna El-Sayed, a respected Al Jazeera journalist who has fearlessly reported from Gaza. In the midst of danger and escalating crisis, she brings forward voices and stories the world needs and should listen to. Thank you, Youmna. Thank you for coming and being with us today.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for hosting me. It's truly a pleasure to be here among you guys in Indonesia and in Radio Republic of Indonesia.
Well, let's start with what you are seeing on the ground right now. How would you describe the situation in Gaza after 2 years of the ongoing Israeli aggression and its indiscriminate attack?
Well, since day one, honestly, Daniel, since this genocide started unfolding, the situation in Gaza has been deteriorating day after day. Let's not forget that prior to the 7th of October, Gaza has already been living under a lasting Israeli siege for the past 18 years, which means that Gaza is not a place for supplies and goods and products that are found everywhere in the markets, for example. We did not have electricity like other places around the world. We did not have enough fuel. At best case scenarios, it was 8 hours of electricity, which meant that hospitals were depending on generators, on fuels. We had only one sole company of electricity that was barely running, and Israel had refused for many years to allow the Palestinians in Gaza to have a real, supplier of electricity in Gaza. It means that Gaza is not a place that had water that is always running. The health sector in Gaza was always on the verge of collapse. In any kind of emergency that had happened or would happen instantly, that verge of collapse instantly collapsed. At the beginning of the genocide, I remember I was asking one of the head of the emergency section in Al-Shifa hospital, and I said, how much is the capacity of beds around across the strip in the hospitals? You know how many he told me?
How many?
1,800 medical beds across the strip. The strip is a home for 2.3 million people. We're talking about 1,800 medical beds. That's less than 2,000 beds. Can you imagine? This is basically the reality of Gaza before any kind of war or escalation. But this same and this is a situation, by the way, that international organizations are aware of. They know that this is the reality of the situation in Gaza. The international community understands very much the reality of the situation in Gaza, and they know that all these measures, precautions, denials are because of an illegal Israeli occupation and siege on the Gaza Strip. Yeah. For almost 2 years now, the people in Gaza are being bombed indiscriminately, day and night, relentlessly. Forced evacuations, forced displacement. Children are dying of starvation while the entire world is watching.
Yeah.
Children, women, men, elderlies are dying of thirst. They go through the process of being tortured by your veins drying because of your thirst. All this is being allowed while the entire world is watching. It's being documented while the international community is allowing it to happen.
And you saw those realities by yourself on the ground.
I lived this reality. I lived this reality, Daniel, with my children. I lived this reality with my neighbors, with the people around me. I've seen it. I've lived it. I know how much the amount of suffering and torment that these people live on a daily basis, not just on a daily basis, every hour of every day.
Youmna, the footage of the missiles striking the building just behind you while you were reporting from Gaza left everybody in shock. And I personally admire your courage to continuing the reporting in such horrifying and terrible situations. So could you share with us about that horrible experience and what gave you the courage to carry on in such a dangerous situation?
Well, it's very ironic because this happened in the 7th of October 2023, but in May 2021, a similar actually video and a similar situation happened to me also while I was on air. Only this time the tower that was hit was right in front of me. So the audience and the camera was not capturing the targeting of the tower. It was capturing my reaction. And this just, I'm just giving you an example of something that happened in 2021 and it happened again in 2023. This is just really the reality of
kind of deja vu.
The coverage that, or the kind of work that we live as Palestinian journalists in the field.
Yes.
I was just by coincidence that it happened while I was live on air and the entire world had seen it. It has happened with a lot of other, maybe not the same situation exactly, but many other situations like this situation or similar to this situation have happened with so many other colleagues. And the cameras, because they were not live, did not capture that situation. It has happened with me in so many other situations that were much worse than this one. I actually felt after I've been subjected to other situations of live bombardment that this one was actually the lightest of them all.
Yeah. And there's still injury on your shoulder, right?
There is it was actually the shrapnel flying. I did not get an injury from that day. No, the injury I have in my back is because of my my very heavy vest and helmet. And another situation that happened in Jabalia refugee camp when a massacre. I went to cover a massacre in Jabalia refugee camp. And suddenly the Israeli army called to say that it was going to hit again the same place that was struck. And it was a total chaos and everyone started running for their life. And they actually hit before people had moved out of the place, and I was one of these people as well. So it's just a lot of situations that you can't really take your breath in the field when you're covering a war or a genocide in Gaza. And this one has been completely different. Everyone used to ask me at the beginning, why is this one different than other wars? And I used to think, because of course this one is so much more fearful. This one has no rules. Journalists were declared as legitimate targets. No, it's every single Palestinian in Gaza was declared as a legitimate target. But then I realized all the previous ones, Daniel, were wars. This one is a genocide. It's a genocide from the very first beginning.
Second day, right?
From the very first day. That tower that was captured on live on camera, it's a 14-story building, residential tower, right in the middle of Gaza city. And maybe what kept me going is that Gaza is a very small place. We know the names of the buildings, the areas, the streets, everything. So it was easy to look and to identify right away the residential tower that was hit. But of course, I was in a state of panic. I was in a state of terror. I'm at the end, I'm a human being. I can't neglect the, really, it's just like the normal human reaction that you can't control as a human being.
So what gave you the courage to carry on? You're still reporting under that dangerous situation. And in your opinion, I mean, from your perspective, what brings about the courage and what makes Palestinian journalists also brave? Yeah.
Well, I feel that we carry on not just as a professional duty, we carry on because of the ethical and moral duty and responsibility that we carry on our shoulders as Palestinian journalists covering a genocide that is unfolding against our own people. I always said that the journalist is not the story, and we know that as journalists. We always say that it's not the journalist behind the story that matters, but in this case, every single journalist was living the same story. He and she were living the story of their homes being bombed, their families being threatened, their neighborhoods being destroyed, their streets, their schools, their everything, their entire lives. So it's not that we have been excluded. No, it got to the point where we are being targeted, and so are our family, for being journalists. And this is where all lines have been crossed. We have been put in a total different category, treated as criminals, and that we must be targeted for our coverage, for being the window of the world on the atrocities and crimes committed by the Israeli army towards innocent civilians.
Even though they
in the
are
Gaza Strip.
protected by law, right? Even though they are protected by
every single civilian is protected under international law, and journalists are civilians that are identified. They risk their lives to go to places of danger, to report, to become the window, the messenger of truth for the rest of the world. And this should give them a sense of protection and appreciation for risking their lives and not just staying home at such dangerous times.
Yeah. Youmna, allow me to briefly take a step back into the past. What first brought you to be a war journalist in Gaza?
Well, so I became a journalist at first. Being a war journalist was actually imposed on me because this is just the reality and the case for every journalist in Gaza. Journalism has always been a passion for me. It was not part of my academic background or education. It was a dream and a passion that I really wanted to pursue one day. Gaza, after I moved there to settle completely in 2014, was a place for me that I realized that the world doesn't know anything about. It's an impoverished territory under lasting Israeli occupation, going through dozens of escalations, military escalations, and wars year after year. It was nobody knew anything or heard anything about Gaza except at these very difficult times and tough times. But nobody knew anything about the beautiful faces of Gaza, the people of Gaza, the culture of Gaza. And I thought that this is where I can really start pursuing my dream and taking that step that I've always wanted and postponed it. And that's when I started learning how to become a journalist. And I think each and every journalist we all have the general standards and principles of journalism. The code of ethics that we hear about, that we read about. But each and every journalist is distinguished by their own principles,
Yes.
standards, and
Very.
not experience and capabilities, because that differs from journalist to another, of course, and of course it distinguishes journalists. But I think that the integrity, the standards, and the principles are the most important that distinguish true journalists today.
Yeah. Youmna, being or a journalist, putting life at risk. So line of works, yeah, can be tough on your family. How did your father, your mother, or family react when you decided to become a war journalist, to become a journalist in a very conflict zone, so the most dangerous area maybe on the globe?
Well, it was not easy, and it's still not easy until now. And the fact that they always feel that I'm not safe out there in the field, even when I used to go to cover the marches and the protests by the borders, we as journalists used to get targeted by the Israeli army deployed on the other side of the security fence, although we are hundreds of meters away from it. And this has always been a sense of worry, and just not just among my family, but among my family, my friends, everyone who knows me. But at the same time, it's an important duty in a place like Gaza, Daniel, because I report in English.
Yes.
And I report for a special kind of audience. I report for the international audience, for the Western audience. That for me as Youmna, I need those audiences away from the Middle East, on the other parts of the world, to realize what is happening in Gaza, to realize the injustice that we are living, especially that we live in a time where the Israeli propaganda
Yes.
is very strong and very influential. And as a journalist, I don't see a reason for you not to go by yourself to the place, to the territory, and investigate.
Yes.
And witness firsthand, because a part of journalist's definition is not just a messenger, but a witness, a first-hand witness. Many journalists can, with many nationalities, they can go to the occupied territories, they can go to occupied East Jerusalem, they can even access the Gaza Strip and come. Of course, not during this genocide, but before. And they can go and see and witness for themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we're talking about long years, decades. Of
Centuries.
oppression, suppression, illegal occupation, lasting blockade. You can't have all these injustices unfold year after another towards a population and be completely silent and quiet about, and then wake up and realize that, oh, there's the 7th of October attack and the entire world is talking about it.
Yeah.
And the decades of suffering and oppression and repression and siege and slaughter against an entire population in the occupied Palestinian territories, in East Jerusalem, and in the Gaza Strip, all are summarized in one attack called the October 7th attack. The October 7th attack is an attack. It happened. You cannot have double standards and say, oh, I do not sympathize with what happened. No, that is just having the same double standards that I condemn and denounce. A victim is a victim everywhere, no matter on this side of the border or that side of the border. A civilian is a civilian, no matter their nationality, Palestinians and Israelis. But you can't unsee and ignore and turn a blind eye and a deaf ear towards all these injustices unfolding for decades against the Palestinian people, and then come and focus on one attack
Yeah.
by the Palestinian groups or a certain group, okay?
Yes.
And then watch an entire genocide unfold against innocent civilians, collective punishment by all means, and stay silent and quiet about how is that justified?
Yes.
It is not justified.
Not justified at all. Yeah. Youmna, covering war means witnessing human suffering. So maybe many of journalists wonder, how do you manage yourself, your psychological well-being, yeah, to do your job under such extreme condition?
Well, I have a very horrible psychological well-being. And I
Please
don't
share with
think
us, because many journalists, of course, Indonesian journalists wonder, how can you be that strong? So how you manage your psychological well-being?
well, to be honest with you, I find ways to survive, but I don't have a mental condition since I came out of Gaza. For example, I have sleep deprivation for over a year now, and if it wasn't,
how long do you sleep?
honestly, if it wasn't
It's
for makeup and concealers, you would constantly be seeing very dark circles around my eyes, and this is something that I can't control, because no matter how much I try to go to sleep, I can't sleep.
So how many hours do you sleep every night?
I try to, if I can get 2 or 3 hours of sleep, I'm very happy. I'm very grateful. I sleep when I completely fall asleep alone, because I can't take it anymore. The well-being of a person who has witnessed such scenes, pictures, events, not just with people around me in Gaza, but even among my children, as a mother,
Your daughter.
is not something that I think I can ever recover from.
Yeah.
And maybe there was hope that I would have recovered if the genocide would have stopped long ago, and we would have seen some better days unfolding for thousands of children. I think about those children who are only survivors, those children who are starving, those children who are thirsty, those children who are suffering in hospitals of third-degree burns or amputees, and there is no painkiller to keep them safe, to keep them off the pain. I've seen them. I've seen the mothers in the displaced tents, and then the children in remote areas in very thin tents, in the winter cold, and in the very hot sunny summer. I've seen the long queues and lines of bread and water, and worse than that, the fear and terror among the children when they hear a missile fall. The stories of children, the emotions, it's endless, Daniel.
So
It's
heartbreaking.
endless.
So heartbreaking. Youmna, you once mentioned in one of the interview that sharing Gaza's voice globally from one country to another country helps you ease a deep sense of sorrow upon witnessing the pain of colleagues and loved ones. So, do you feel the same here in Indonesia? And could you tell us the main mission of your coming to Indonesia?
Well, of course. I mean, this is something that I can, the least, let's say, I can do to contribute to Gaza, to its people, to my colleagues, to stand by them. I left Gaza, and I left with a great sense of survival guilt. I left because I had no choice, no other choice, to save my children's life except by leaving. And that survival guilt for the first 4 months killed me, literally every single day. I felt like it was eating me alive. And then I decided and realized that I can still contribute to the raising of awareness around the world by going to these countries around the world and speaking about Gaza, about the suffering, the challenges of the people, the innocent civilians, the dangers among my colleagues, the journalists, the targeting of journalists, the mental health of journalists, children, women. All these sufferings and difficulties open the eyes of the people. And I really believe in the power of the people, because majority always overcomes minority, no matter how much minority is stronger. And the governments will at the end listen to the voices of their people, because their people are the majority. So no matter how weak their voices were, they are so much greater. And once they realize that their voices matter, this is when a real change can happen. And this is what I call out for.
The word that you choose is wonderful, yeah. Survival guilty. I hope entire Muslims in the world feel the same, yeah. Survival guilty, by voicing up, by standing with Palestinian. Youmna, finally, with everything you have witnessed, what keeps you going? What keeps you telling these stories to the world?
I still have hope that the people will, their voices will be greater than any challenges, than any obstacles. And this is how we will be able to overcome any obstacles in front of us. I know that there is a change that is happening. It's happening slowly, but it's actually happening. And slow, concrete change is better than rapid and lasting change. And the other thing is, I always remind myself of the ongoing suffering among the people. And that suffering, Daniel, as much as it hurts and breaks my heart and tears my soul, as much as it keeps me and fuels me and motivates me to go on and not give up. Yeah. So I will keep going on, because it's not just the end of this genocide, it's the aftermath. But what matters now is that it would stop once and for all, and then we start dealing with the aftermath that will take decades long for the people and for the land to recover.
Thank you, Youmna. Thank you for sharing with us your inspiring story and your incredible bravery with us today. Your voice serves as a powerful call for entire world to stand with Gaza, and we hope peace can soon be restored in Gaza as well.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Dear viewers and listeners, that was our conversation with Youmna El Sayed, and thank you for watching.
Voice of Indonesia. VOR.